Yeah, I'm actually really excited and intrigued by this one because of a couple of reasons. One of them being that we haven't seen a ton of W7M. So for the precedent to be set for them, it's going to be kind of yet to happen. And what's interesting is currently they're sitting on a 20-round win, which means, sorry, a 10-round win, which means that if they were to have played all 4 games that some of the other teams have played, we would have assumed that they would be on a 20-round win, which is enough to be in the top 6, but not enough to really be fighting for a top spot. So that says to me that W7M need to make up for that in these next couple of games and do better than they have in the last 2 in order to have any real chance to scrap with the top dogs.
The bans are locked in there. We see Hibana, Thatcher, Mirror, and Valkyrie all removed. Kind of makes a bit of sense to remove Valkyrie here, particularly against what could be quite an aggressive Team Liquid whenever they get themselves over onto that defense. But with Nomad being in play, it does a little bit to try and quell the eagerness of some of those runouts, of which we can expect plenty here on Consulate. It is an aggressive map. There's a lot to be gained with outside information. At this moment in time, we're not seeing the typical pick from W7M as, you know, a Maestro or a Pulse. They don't seem to be looking to try and gain that intel. It seems as though they're going to be fairly confident just dealing with what they've got. A couple of Mozzie pests potentially if they're fortunate enough to capture a drone, a bulletproof camera. But already I'm seeing quite a utility-starved lineup there.
Yeah, and this is actually something we saw last week as well, is leaning into the Doc Jaeger yellow stairs kind of hold, except the problem that we saw last week is yellow stairs hold didn't involve much of a hold. And I think if Team Liquid can kind of come in and eat up that presence in that part of the map and just take immediate control, W7M are going to really significantly struggle. So that's something that I would like to see kind of, at the very least, waste enough time of Team Liquid's that it causes a problem for them. I don't want to see them just be chewed straight out. Oh, they actually don't even have the Doc Jaeger on the yellow stairs. So that's not what they're going for. They're going to have to smoke there instead.
Sexy Kate there trying to gather a bit of intel on the drone as Nesk parkours his way past the pest, but will in fact lose his drone in the end. We're going to be going for a rotation there. Really a lot of focus now being paid to this yellow stairs area. And this push can be quite beautiful when it does come off. It's also quite tricky in terms of timing and coordination from the attackers. We can see Moringa. He's there waiting now to try and deal some sort of damage with a grenade as Selma is unsuccessfully shot off the wall by Kurtz. That really gives him quite a vulnerability there from that bathroom side, as nobody can now rotate into bathroom to try and assist him. Instead, a lot of pressure now lies on the hands of Herds, who is just on the other side of the door at the top of these yellow stairs, with the stim in hand, trying to keep him alive.
Herd's taking a bunch of damage, which means he's going to use one of those stim pistols on himself. There's one less that he has available for Kurtz, who is currently overhealed. He gets naded, but picked straight back up. So he's still holding on to the stairs, which is exactly what I wanted to see be done pretty well. Team Liquid have, up until this point, decided that they're going to be really strong here. In fact, they're trying to swing in. Kurtz knew that there was going to be 2 of them at once, but it wasn't enough for him to get straight onto the bathroom window at the same time. And finally, this space has been made.
Some pressure has been alleviated, but W7M have a player to fill the gap, and that player is Herds. PSK comes in from the bottom and finds an important frag, and that leaves Herds in a bit of a tricky situation. Eventually does find himself getting taken out before more trades come on through from W7M. A lot of time left remains here, as we do have 25 seconds, and only 2 defenders for Liquid to try and deal with. Adrian, full health, trying to make his best challenge over onto that bathroom area, but Sexy Cake is going to confirm that diffuser, and with the lack of intel available on the side of the defenders, I doubt they know it's going down. That will now be locked in and Padrin, his position becomes increasingly more difficult. Liquid players now can get themselves onto rappels and outside of the building and make it very difficult for a retake to ensue. Padrin approaches, trying to make his way through console desk, goes for the impact grenade, the 50-50, and he picks the wrong angle. Meanwhile, he does find a kill over onto Paolu, but he has still got the tricky upside down rappel to deal with, and Moringa on the skylight. 15 seconds left, so arguably not enough time to gain these 2 kills and get a successful disable off, as he is eventually just going to burn out the time. Finds an impactless kill, but ever consistent Moringa from the rappel finds that final one, and Liquid, they're going to take round number 1.
Very overwhelmed were W7M at the end, despite the fact that they did hold on to that yellow stairs for quite some time. Having the coordinated swing in through both the windows at the same time, knowing that it was the Doc who'd had to take the position on the stairs, the smoke wasn't there anymore, you couldn't be pushed back by the Toxic Babe canisters, but you also didn't have the support of one other player. It meant that Liquid could basically guarantee that at least one of those 2 were going to survive and that they could come in with relative impunity. And that gave Liquid a lot of space that they required to actually get on in. Now, we are, of course, only 1 round in, and that doesn't always tell the tale of how conclusive the game is going to be. However, one thing that I think is important to bring up is that W7M last week, only 1 player on the team had a survival rate of above 10%, which was Panico at 30%. So, a real big problem for this team is the fact they are not surviving their rounds. And none of them survived that last one either. And this is not a pattern that needs to be continued for W7M, because if it is, then immediately we can tell you now, Team Liquid are going to win.
You make a compelling argument, Gio. You do have to be alive to have a meaningful impact, and W7M, they're not keeping themselves alive, at least not at the time being. Now, that last round has been enough. They've seen enough of that top floor attack from Liquid, and they've gone, right, let's mix it up, let's keep the rotation moving. We're going to go to Split. This is a site that we saw Team Liquid essentially just walk in and plant previously last week when we saw them playing this map. Sexy Cake, all the confidence in the world, despite the C4 potential that was looming from below, was able to hop himself up onto one of the desks and gain a plant and, of course, a round. And it looks as though that's what Liquid are trying to do yet again. A lot of focus on this admin area, a lot of focus on visas. They rarely push anywhere else when attacking onto Split, at least from what we have seen. And for a good reason, they don't really need to. They usually have a pretty good handle of getting this control, and it's an only take what you need situation.
I think relying on the Pulse and the Kaid also comes under this as well, because of the C4s that he carries. I would also include the Goyo in that he did. I think that's probably a really good approach from W7M, given that, as you say, Team Liquid last week basically just walked into the site and planted, but a lot of that was because of the setup of the rest of the team being able to shut off any other members of the defending side to walk towards the site. However, the way that W7M seem to be defending here is specifically designed so that as Team Liquid move forward, they can basically be blown up and caught out. I think if they are going to stop them, that's probably the right way to do it.
Moringa making some vertical angles there, as so much of Consular is destructible, and the vertical angles that you can find can be quite powerful. The SK obviously on the Nomad, looking to just take control of visas and obviously apply those air jabs in positions that are going to make it difficult for defenders to try and retake. Utility being spotted out as well. Kurtz not in a bad position here on the spiral. Padrin responds for W7M, but so does Paolu. Kill's going to level out, but eventually Team Liquid once again in the driver's seat. Sexy Cake has snuck his way on into sight under the cover of PSK, and will now look to try and get a plant down. full white flash on the pulse is going to make it difficult to try and pull off a C4, as that plan will likely be confirmed, and it is. Kill's still swinging either direction, but Herds is left out in the cold. Does find a double as the players on Liquid stack up there. This now has changed into something that could be doable. Moringa doesn't have a drone in the location that he thought, and it looks as though Herds is going to get an opportunity, but whiffs it. Moringa with the SMG-11. Quick turn and burn, and Liquid locking round number 2.
I mean, it was a decent enough amount of pressure that was applied onto Liquid. It's just a shame that it came from one person, because I don't think that's enough to necessarily knock their mentality or their confidence. If it's just one person who got a double kill that's kind of eaten away part of your team and put you in a weaker situation in your post plant, you're not necessarily going to move into the next round thinking, oh man, if that happens again, that could be it for us. So W7M, I don't know. There needs to be more from them as a whole. And I feel like I'm sounding really negative about them, and I don't want people to think that I've written this off straight away. I just think this is going to be a really tough hill for them to climb. I think the fact that they've played fewer games is definitely notable, because, you know, especially when there's been some time away from competitive play and everyone else has kind of warmed up and they've gotten into it and they've gotten an idea of what it's like to play in these scenarios. You know, you can watch back the VODs and stuff, but it's something else to actually be in the situation yourself. And of course they will have been scrimming, but it's, again, still different to playing it properly. W7M are sort of left behind in that sense, in that they've had their off days, they've had their buys already. So they're kind of catching up in terms of how ready that they are to be playing this and face these opponents. And Liquid is a behemoth of an opponent, and this is on a map that not only did Liquid win very well last week, but W7M lost pretty decisively as well. So it just means that W7M have so much more to prove this time around and in this game, and the pressure is truly on their shoulders. That doesn't mean it's impossible for them, it just means it's hard.
I think that's maybe, Gio, why we're being not necessarily hard on them, but it's like, right, you've taken us to this map, like, prove why you've done it, because we've seen what's happened previously. We know the data and the statistics of how this has gone. What is the difference? What is the reason? What's changed to make you want to pick it here and now? And I think that's maybe where it comes across as we're trying to find some sort of an answer from W7M, because we know what the expected outcome is, because we have stats to sort of back that up. Now, what is the difference maker? And that's the question that we're continually asking round after round. And so far, we haven't really seen that, because there's been 2 rounds. There has been 2 plants. The player that's stepping up in the biggest way is Herds. He is going to get traded out there, but not before he takes down Nesk. There's an argument there as to how worth it that is, because whilst Liquid, yes, they rely on Nesk for some kills, they're going to look to try and get this diffuser down, and that is their essential main focus inside of every single round.
Well, I would say that so far it has been something of a success. The fact that Team Liquid have had to apply so much attention to the top floor when the site is in the basement. You know, we're nearing that 1 minute left mark. There's still shields that are up in the basement. There's still those evil eyes as well. Team Liquid need to clear those things out and start approaching onto those players that are downstairs. And they don't have tons and tons of time to do. You know, they've had to pay attention to these upstairs, and they still are. They are getting the floor open here in Piano as Moringa goes wild with the Caber, and that has allowed him also to throw in that nade, which I'm sure was either to bring down an Evil Eye or a shield, one of the two. Palu, holding onto this angle at the top of Spiral, could be about to catch out one of the players from W7M. This is Padron on the Maestro, although so far it's a very stationary standoff.
Seems like a bit of double failure expectancy there, because that's actually air jabbed, and Paolu's going to get himself killed there by challenging the angle. Moringa will find one over onto Kurtz, but in and amongst the confusion, how does he do it? Time and time again, Sexy Cake's managed to get that diffuser down and continue to go ham from White Van. Panico trades one back, level things up at 2-2, but Moringa is in a powerful position. He's upstairs and he has the potential for all the vertical control that he could need. Panico maybe looking for a drop here, has a C4, going to go for a rotation hole instead, but no, nets himself the kill. 2 versus 1 now as Sexy Cake is in a bit of a tough spot, but it is one of the more difficult sites to try and retake from. For whatever reason, Sexy Cake's found himself inside of Cafeteria, trying to fight this good fight, looking to try and waste as much time as possible, and it seems as though that mission has been accomplished, as there is now not enough time to disable that diffuser. Liquid, they are going to win out that round, but boy oh boy, could that have gone the other way.
Oh man, yeah, I mean, it could have gone the other way if Sexy Cake hadn't have whiffed the shot onto the yellow stairs. That was just, I mean, you know, it was just a messy shot at that point, but at least it was nice for... Oh, wait, hold on. I thought the W7M won that round. My bad. I even wrote down the Liquid won it, and then I just kind of, like, lost my mind. Well, yeah, it could have gone the other way, because W7M were really close to being able to defuse, but they just ran out of time. Gonna hide in a hole.
I think don't hide in a hole. I think it feels as though it's always a weird round when you see the plank go down, and then there's, like, a series of unfortunate events that lead it to being the bomb planter that then has to clutch out the round. Now, that's such a difficult diffuse to disable when it's planted at the front of White Van, because the wall is usually open to Big Garage and you can hide behind one of the cars. Now, I would have wholeheartedly anticipated if you'd have said, Ollie, where is Sexy Cake? I would have said he is outside of Garage. That is the most logical place to be at that moment in time. No. He's in Cafeteria. Now, I'm not saying he's wrong in that instance because they won the round and he's the professional. But to me, I'm like, why is he inside of the map still? Why has he not got himself outside, lead prone, holding the pixel angle onto the diffuser and just waiting for that time to tick on by? Now, there will be a good reason for that, I am sure. And you never know. We might even get Ace to ask that question in the interview. But why, oh why, did Paolu challenge onto that bottom spiral stairs when there was an air jab in place that could not have been shot? Sure, it could have been impacted or something, but it's more and more sound cues. I think Moringa got very unfortunate timing on the C4 toss from Gui on the pulse. There was just a couple of things there that gave W7M like a chance, a hint that the round could have gone in their direction. As it stood, Liquid once again ring on through. The standard, just get the diffuser down, play that objective version of Siege, bringing home the bacon for them.
Well, they are closer and closer to that point. Back up to the top floor, and W7M have made changes to the way that they're approaching this defense, which is something that I very much like to see. I'm always partial to a cheeky adaptation. They haven't brought the Doc or the Rook this time. Instead, they're leaning into this kind of Vigil and Jaeger room, as well as having the information from the Maestro, and then, of course, the Goyer and the Smoke as well. So this means that they are putting less stock into specifically holding the yellow stairs, which is what they were doing before. You have Guy, who is present here, but he isn't relied upon to stay there if he doesn't have to. And I think that gives W7M a lot more flexibility in the decisions that they can make here on CEO, because Team Liquid, once they took control of the yellow stairs last time, they could just move straight in, because by that point they'd killed a number of members of W7M in the process of taking that space anyway. Because of this, there's more of a chance, at least theoretically, that there will be more members of W7M alive elsewhere. Kurtz won't be one of them, though.
You hate to see it. The nade coming in from Sexy K lands perfectly onto Kurtz. As once again, Liquid are demonstrating how much they favour the admin side. They're very good at taking control of that side of the map. They'll do it if it's a split site, and they occasionally do it here when attacking upstairs. They've already showed us the yellow stairs push that they like to do and that was successful. And in this instance, they're wanting to try and mix things up. PSK's downstairs inside of Visa, trying to get himself into an engage with Panico, who is now location known and still goes for the swing. PSK is going to punish you every day of the week for that. Nesk still struggling in this fixture as he finds himself taken down by Padrin. You just get the impression it's only a matter of time as you see that box light up yellow on the bottom right of your screen, and it's none other than Sexy Cake. 4 rounds and 4 plants for Liquid.
Herd's trying to come into the site. He gets that kill, but is immediately traded from the meeting balcony. Padrin's actually been doing pretty okay so far. He knows where this player is. The impact doesn't quite get him, but it opens the second window. He can try and shoot out, but Palu will win it out. Team Liquid take round number 4, and W7M are left here wondering what it is they can do.
Just so good from the side of Liquid. The nade that opened the whole thing up, taking down Kurtz. And from that moment onward, it was a case of W7M did not move quick enough. They were already embroiled in engagements and focused on distractions, while Sexy Cake continues to do what he does best. And that is get his way on into sight and hold down F. Confirm that diffuser, and then get his ass out of there before he gets shot. Now, that time he didn't quite manage to do it, but that's why you have Palu playing on the balcony, because those kills do come fairly easily for him. Another round and another Liquid win for now. What are W7M going to do? Because this game, Gio, it isn't going to get any easier for W7M when they move on to the attack.
No, not at all. But look, they've defaulted straight back to what it was they did in round number 1. They tried out something different in the last round. I gave them praise for it, for making the adaptation, for making the change, for trying to be a bit more flexible. But clearly they feel way more comfortable reverting back to this yellow stairs hard hold. What Team Liquid have proven is that they are comfortable with making an attack in from either direction. They're happy to come in through admin and meeting. They're happy to go in through yellow stairs. They're happy to plant in CEO. They're happy to plant in meeting. So Team Liquid are pretty much just going to go along with whatever it is W7M are bringing, because they know and they feel comfortable with the fact that they can deal with it. And even if clearing out yellow stairs may take a bit longer than clearing out the other parts of the map on a different type of defense, they are still perfectly satisfied with their efficacy in closing that down.
It's as though for this round, Liquid fancy the yellow stairs push again. Makes a lot of sense. They brought the Capital this time. It's going to be another thing W7M have to deal with, and with no Wamai, it's going to make it quite difficult to get out of the way of those asphyxiating fire arrows. Kurtz is likely going to see quite a bit of pressure, and it's a brilliant way to circumnavigate all of the ADSs that are being placed inside of that yellow stairs as well. Information going to get gathered on the drone. Herd's ready and waiting with the stim pistol. Look at the silhouettes that are stacking up on the skylight. Fire arrow goes in, burnt on both sides to a crisp and cut down from the skylight. That's the teamwork that we watched Latam for, Gio.
You just saw it coming from a million miles away. As soon as the fire came in, he was going to have to cross those 3 players who were holding on to Skylight. And now Team Liquid just have so much space to do with whatever they want. Hertz has decided it's way more in his favor to move into CEO and try and hold off the guy who's going to be on the rappel. Because at this point, yellow stairs and bathroom, they're not yours anymore.
You're going to be underneath with the C4 trying to deny that plant, but has he got the intel? Panico with the drop as well, and all of this is just making the site a bit more of an appetizing place for Liquid to try and take control of. PSK's got some drones going out there. There are still plenty of drones alive for Liquid. 9 available as we go into the final minute. They have intel on just about everything that they could need.
Ooh,
aside
nice.
from the C4, Nesk not having the best of games, let's be honest, but it isn't mattering. He's soaking up that utility and allowing his team to thrive. A lot of players outside this West Rappel now. You get the feeling it's only a matter of time until the plant starts to go down. However, there is the small factor of dealing with the players underneath. Panico, is he going to go for a big jump out here, or at least prep it for the time being? Finally finds the drone. Palu now making his way up as well, wiggling on the door, and it just seemed as though Padrin wanted no part of that engagement. Sexy K, light in the box, yellow yet again, getting that diffuser down, and it looks as though for this time it's going to be uninterrupted. He does lose his life for it to Herds, but the crossfires have been established. Nades coming in, funneling Herds, and making it so that, in fact, he's going to be down and have to use another stim, as Moringa is on the upside down repel of those CEO windows. Guy with a run out, unsuccessfully. Moringa with 2 with 1 clip. SMG 11. Palu picks the final kill, and Liquid are on a tear here on Consulate.
I really have to criticize how much W7M telegraphed those runouts. Panico prepped the window in piano. Moringa got on the rappel and sat and watched it. Did Panico think that Moringa wasn't going to have heard that? Did he think he wasn't going to be aware of it? Or maybe if I just smash open this window, no one will know. He jumped straight into the barrel of his gun, and then Guy did the same thing later on as well. They fed those kills to Moringa, and they didn't have to. And this is one of the big criticisms I have of W7M right now, is it is just part of a wider example of them taking fights that are not necessary. There have been a couple of times where someone has tried to hold an angle or swing around a door or something along those lines into where they know there is a player from Team Liquid who's watching them. Do you think they're not gonna know? They've been caught out. Just, you don't need to get aggressive at moments where you have too much to lose. It is kind of greedy, and I think the discipline of not doing it could go a long way for them.
Moringa got 4 kills and he didn't step foot inside of the building.
Nope.
That's just ludicrous. He got 2 from the... Sorry, you got 3 from the connector window, essentially. And then 1 from the skylight. The initial push, which was just so beautifully done. Like, a yellow stairs push. I said this earlier. A yellow stairs push, it's one of the more beautiful things in Siege when it all works in harmony. It's like a well-composed piece of music. It's just so good to watch. And that's what we got gifted to in that last round by Liquid. It really does seem as though they cannot put a foot wrong here tonight. Currently 5-0. And I'm sure they're looking to try and make it 6. 30 seconds gone, and they're already looking to try and open up the garage wall. Sexy Cake this time really going to be flexing his way around the operator pool. Going to be on Iana. We've seen him play a few different things so far this evening, but make no mistake, he will always have the diffuser in hand.
Yeah, I think he played Yana in, if it wasn't the last round, it was the one before that. He has played it a couple of times now in this game. I'm also interested on the other side of things. You know, W7M made some changes, so of course they're going back to the garage, which in round 3 is probably the closest they came to being able to win, because it was just Sexy Cake on his own, doing his post plant from cafe, or kitchen, as most people like to call it. For W7M, especially with the Oryx, you know, there is that potential for a late flank that they could do. Now, oftentimes, a lot of that sounds so much better in your head than it actually ends up being in reality. It's not super often that you see an Oryx late flank get successfully pulled off, but there's hope. Kurt's getting rid of one of the air jabs as well. That will give W7M a bit more freedom, and Moringa's going to be DB a node from below as well.
Palu going to try and establish himself on those yellow stairs as the Aruni laser gates get burnt. Nades get tossed on through. It seems though Liquid aren't too worried about Moringa upstairs and almost can use him as just an extra pair of eyes. Palu there arguably baiting him out as he takes down Herds, maybe in an attempt to try and clean up that kill. Sexy Kate once again starts to try and get this plant down. Panico doing a little bit of work though. Moringa has been revived. Is he going to be able to get any of these frags? He finds one. Does he know that someone's pushing down yellow stairs as well? It's very important that he picks up this kill, but no, he tosses a nade before he dies, and Nesk is now in the 1 versus 2. Again, got himself in a real tough spot. There's vertical angles right above you, Nesk. What are you going to do? No, he gets cut down. Panico, he has a triple kill on the round. Goes huge for his team. Padrin, plenty of time to get that disable off. Once again, you got to ask the question, why is nobody outside of that garage as the plant goes down, Liquid? I feel like you're rushing it a little bit.
Yeah, I find it both times that Liquid have had this post plant down here in the garage, it has looked like the last player, which was Sexy Cake before, it was Nesk this time, has wanted to be in a position where they have direct eyes on the bottom of yellow stairs. That has been the object of their attention both times. But Sexy Cake missed his shots when there was a player coming down yellow stairs, and Nesk saw the player peeking out but didn't actually shoot. In both situations, they were in positions where missing those kills on the bottom of the yellow stairs led to danger for them. In the case of Sexy Cake, it was that both those players came rushing down yellow stairs and could take a better set up position in the garage to try and get the disable. It just so happened that they ran out of time. And in this case with Nesk, he was trapped underneath a vertical angle that was being held by another player of W7M. So while I kind of understand what they're going for and wanting to have those eyes on yellow stairs and be able to stop the push from there, there is a lot of risk involved if you can't make that work. And both times, Liquid failed to make it work. So please go outside.
Let's see if this is a consolation round or if it is the start of a bit of a comeback here for W7M. They've now switched over onto the attack. Now, it's something we spoke of in the pre-game, and that is that Liquid are a very dangerous team out here on the roam. Nesk and Paolu will run most teams ragged as they get out there and stretch the legs, often getting involved in important opening engagements and finding themselves on the right side of things. Paolu, I don't think, stood still for more than about 3 seconds as this round has progressed through. How are W7M going to approach this? Are they going to go for the yellow stairs push, or are they going to go for the admin push? Both pose their own problems, but it seems as though already we're seeing a big difference in the speed at which these teams choose to move.
Well, I was going to say that I would assume that at least from the yellow stairs side, because Panico's playing on Fuse, and that might be used to clear out that area. But I was holding my breath until I saw if he was going to die on the spiral rappel at first, because that was a very real possibility. But he could be a big threat to Sexy Cake if he's brought round to this side of the map. So far, no one has gone down though, and W7M have lost a number of drones as well. And on a map like Consulate, you really want to be watching things like your flank. Yes, you bring the Nomad to protect that somewhat, but you only get 3 air jabs. Goodbye, Padron. PSK opening things up with a headshot straight onto him, and he was carrying the diffuser as well. So that's going to have to be collected, and a big loss, I think, there for W7M.
Yeah, never great losing that opening engagement, especially when you've not gained a single thing for it. Moringa has only just now used his first Toxic Babe canister. So I think Kurtz has gone to recover that diffuser and just run straight on past it. Not sure why that is. Panico, we're yet to see any important use from this fuse. Goes on to bring breaching charges. That is an option on multiple other operators. Herds gets a kill over onto Sexy Cake there as he goes for a rotation, but Moringa still hasn't been dealt with. He's going to trade out onto those yellow stairs. Kurt's now looking to try and push below as Guy has recovered that diffuser. Panico still holding angles on the rappel, and you just wonder at which direction, at which entry point are W7M going to make their bid here, because I can't see anything being all too viable. Kurt's getting himself caught in an engagement there. Paolu knows he doesn't even need to take it. He can just rotate himself back up these stairs along with his teammates and wait for these final 9 seconds to play on out. Guy gets caught in a Toxic Babe canister as Panico's looking to push his way in through bathroom, but at this point, you know it is to certain death. Yellow stairs control was gained, but for what? Liquid cleanup. Paolo and PSK picking up the final 2. That puts them onto a match point.
Honestly, the only really decisive thing I saw W7M do in that round was Herd swinging into yellow stairs. And he got a nice kill just before that as well. But they didn't have anybody, I think, on the CEO rappel because someone in CEO could just shoot through the soft wall straight onto that window and kill Herds in his tracks. Why they didn't have someone on CEO rappel, I don't know. But that was kind of... everything else just felt very wishy-washy and backwards and forwards. And like W7M didn't have a real fixed plan for what they were doing. It didn't feel like anything was being done with purpose.
It was a situation, in my opinion, where W7M were greeted and saw what the defense had set up for them and were trying to problem solve on the fly. Instead of what we saw from Liquid when they approached the situation and it's like, these are the things that we are going to do to get the job done because this is where we need to be. W7M were like, okay, we need to try and deal with the smoke inside of console desk. Well, go underneath and shoot him through the floor. You know, just come up with that sort of a solution instead of playing into what these defenders are setting up. Because if you start trying to play into Liquid, they're going to win 9 times out of 10 because they have the setup and it's set up in that way for a reason. You've got to try and bring something new and refreshing to the table when approaching these defenses, and that's what we struggle to see from W7M. That and a bit of a lack of direction. This site's going to be no easier for them. We have PSK playing on the mute. That means that the likelihood of gaining significant control inside a piano is going to be slim. W7M seem to be hightailing it to that top floor and getting control of admin as quickly as possible.
I want to see them be decisive. I want to see them make solid moves in. And they'll have a lot more space to do that here because, again, they're coming in through the top floor, but this is a garage defense. Palu is upstairs, as is Nesk. Though it looks like Palu may have actually moved down to the next floor by now. So W7M do have work ahead of them in terms of clearing out those players. And I wonder... I worry about how many of them will be lost along the way, and Kurtz is going to be the first one who is. Palu getting another kill on top of that as well. Team Liquid, they just have all this space to move straight down now. They've done their job. They don't need to be having a really strong hold upstairs. And they've got the shotgun ready so that they can go down the soft hatch in bathroom as they wish. And W7M are just going to go straight down the Visa stairs.
That is the dangerous thing about Liquid on the defense. You have to try and nail Palu down. You have to try and restrict his movement and deal with him early, because if you don't, he will punish you. And that is exactly what we have seen happen there. W7M left with little opportunity now. They've lost such a large portion of their soft breach. They have to try and push in a horizontal plane. Even now, Palu is at the forefront of the gunfight. Padron finds one over onto Nesk, but Palu is still alive and he is still ready to fight. 4 versus 2 as he picks up his 4th kill of the round. Denied the ace by Sexy Cake, but I'm sure he's not going to mind all too much. Liquid take Consulate, and that is our last game of the night.
That was just, well, it was our shortest game of the night. And I feel kind of bad for W7M just because it was a very difficult opponent and bringing them to Consulate was an incredibly questionable decision. And we wanted to see them prove why they had made that decision, show that they had some bite, something that they could bring to Liquid and make life hard for them, and they simply didn't.